My name is Victoria, a 31-year-old woman who once believed I had built the kind of life that only graced the pages of feel-good novels or romantic comedies. A fulfilling job that kept me engaged, a cozy home that felt like a warm hug at the end of each day, and a marriage that seemed like a shared secret between two best friends. But all of that began to crack when Aaron, my husband of 7 years, started behaving in ways that no longer fit the man I thought I knew. Aaron had always been predictable, a man content with life's small pleasures. He was the type of husband who enjoyed an easy Saturday on the couch, remote in one hand and a beer in the other. His hobbies had never extended beyond the occasional basketball game with friends and spending Sunday mornings reading the sports section. So, when he suddenly developed a relentless devotion to fitness, it sent ripples of suspicion through the comfort I had taken for granted. It started subtly. He came home one evening, eyes gleaming in a way I hadn't seen in years, announcing that he had signed up for a gym membership. I had laughed, thinking it was a fleeting whim. But Aaron's sudden dedication was no phase. Soon, his trips to the gym became part of a rigid routine, so rigid, in fact, that he would sometimes go twice a day. His excuses for these extended gym sessions began to pile up. "Gotta beat the rush," he'd say, or "I might meet up with some of the guys." Each time, his explanations were accompanied by that same manic gleam in his eyes that unsettled me more with each passing day. The man who once scoffed at my early morning yoga sessions was now spouting off information about macros and protein shakes as if he had been studying nutrition for years. He swapped his frayed college t-shirts for high-end gym wear that clung to his frame in a way that felt almost theatrical. A new cologne followed, something sharp and commanding, completely unlike the familiar scent I had come to know as him. I tried to be supportive, to smile and nod when he rambled on about muscle gains and meal prep. But it was more than just the gym and his wardrobe. It was the late nights. The times he would come home long after he said he would, muttering excuses about traffic or running into an old friend. At first, I accepted these small changes with a shrug. Everyone needs hobbies, I told myself. But as days turned into weeks and weeks stretched into months, I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in my stomach, a sensation that something, or someone, was changing the man I thought I knew. The warmth that once punctuated our daily interactions started to dissipate. His laugh, once so easy, became reserved, distant. His conversations were clipped, devoid of the light-hearted banter that used to fill our evenings. The phone, once left haphazardly on the kitchen counter or by the nightstand, was now always face down, as if to guard the secrets it held. And then there were the bank statements, with charges for high-end sports gear and supplements that didn't align with our budget or his previously simple tastes. I would ask, "Aaron, is everything okay?" Hoping that if I said it just right, if my voice was warm enough, it would invite him to share whatever burden he was carrying. But each time, he dismissed my concerns with a quick, "Just trying to be healthy, babe," followed by a kiss that felt more obligatory than affectionate. Yet, behind those words, his eyes would flit away, landing anywhere but on mine. Doubt began to sink its claws into my thoughts, and I knew I had to confront the source of this shadow looming over my life. But confrontation wasn't my way. Not when the stakes were so personal. Instead, I resorted to quiet observation, piecing together clues that felt like parts of a puzzle I didn't want to finish. Then, the day came when I could no longer ignore the signs. The gut feeling I had been trying to suppress roared to life with such force that it drowned out my denial. Aaron left for the gym that morning, his smile a little too practiced, his gaze avoiding mine as he hurried out the door. I decided that day I needed answers. The decision to follow Aaron came with a whirlwind of guilt, a storm of thoughts that raged against my instincts. But those fleeting whispers of conscience were silenced by a more powerful voice, the one screaming for clarity, for the truth that had been hiding behind his rehearsed smiles and elusive eyes. That morning, I slid into my car, parked it a few rows away from Aaron's usual gym spot, and waited. I watched him step out of his car, his movements quick and deliberate, as if he were fueled by something more than just pre-workout energy. The gym loomed in front of him, a building that suddenly felt more foreboding than welcoming. I could see the reflection of myself in the rearview mirror, eyes wide with anticipation, fingers gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I took a deep breath, telling myself that this was just paranoia, that I would see him enter, work out, and leave. I wanted to be proven wrong, but the universe had other plans. A few minutes later, she appeared. Monica, the gym star personal trainer, who had been the life of last year's Christmas party, with her infectious laugh and effortless charm. I remembered how Aaron had watched her that night, a spark of interest in his eyes that I had brushed off as harmless. But watching them now, standing too close in the crisp morning light, erased any doubt. They exchanged glances, quick and cautious. She laughed at something he said, a laugh that made my chest tighten. Then, it happened. Aaron leaned in, his hand brushing a stray strand of her hair before their lips met in a kiss that left no room for misinterpretation. The world blurred at the edges, and my breath caught in my throat as the scene played out like a slow-motion train wreck. My husband was not just slipping away, he was gone, already entangled in a reality that didn't include me. I sat frozen, disbelief rooting me to the seat as I processed what I had just seen. It wasn't until the sound of a car horn behind me jolted me out of my stupor that I realized tears were streaming down my face. My hands trembled as I started the engine, pulling out of the parking lot with no destination in mind, just a desperate need to move, to outrun the agony clawing at my heart. By the time I returned home, the initial wave of shock had given way to something colder and sharper: determination. The pain wasn't gone. It throbbed beneath the surface, a relentless ache, but now it was tempered by a plan forming in the back of my mind. Aaron wasn't just going to walk away from this unscathed. I wouldn't let him. That night, I lay in bed next to him, my eyes tracing the familiar lines of his profile as he slept. How many times had I gazed at him like this, feeling a warmth that now seemed like a distant memory? His face, once so familiar and dear, was now the mask of a stranger. I reached for his phone, which lay carelessly on the nightstand. The lock screen glowed as it unlocked with my fingerprint, a habit of trust we had shared back when things were simpler. What I found there wasn't surprising anymore, but it still stung. The texts between him and Monica were not just flirtatious, but full of an intimacy that mocked our marriage. Plans for secret lunches, late-night whispers shared over dinner at restaurants I used to love, and inside jokes that spoke of a relationship far deeper than casual infidelity. My stomach churned as I scrolled through, each message a dagger twisting deeper into the wound. One message stood out among the rest: "I'm tired of hiding. Maybe it's time for us to stop pretending." The words sent a shiver down my spine. He wasn't just having an affair, he was contemplating a life without me. I returned the phone to its spot, my hands shaking with barely contained rage. My mind raced with the implications of what I had just read. Aaron had betrayed me in the most unforgivable way, but he wasn't going to take everything from me. If he thought he could rebuild his life on the ashes of our marriage while I stood by, broken and discarded, he was sorely mistaken. Over the next few days, I began to piece together my plan, each step a stitch in the fabric of my revenge. It started with research, gathering what I needed: evidence of the affair, financial documents that would paint a picture of his infidelity's impact on our shared assets. I reached out to an attorney, a no-nonsense woman named Carla, who listened to my story without flinching, her eyes narrowing as she took notes. "This isn't just about betrayal, Victoria," Carla said, leaning forward with a gleam of understanding. "This is about reclaiming your power. We're going to make sure he feels every consequence." Her words became my mantra. Every time Aaron looked at me, oblivious to the storm brewing behind my eyes, I held on to Carla's promise. I played the part of the unsuspecting wife perfectly, smiling when he spoke, nodding at his excuses. Inside, though, I was counting down the days until everything would come crashing down. But first there was Monica, the face of betrayal. If Aaron thought he could hide behind her bright smiles and toned muscles, he was wrong. I needed to get closer to her, not as an enemy, but as someone she would never suspect. The first step was simple. I signed up for training sessions at her gym.